In 1972, the Stammer Trust took over a derelict Apple store in Oxford and converted it into a treatment centre for stammerers. The centre is headed by Gerda Wilson, who has specialised in stammering for over 20 years.
What about you? How do you see yourself? What's the image of yourself speaking for? We used, long ago, we used to just what I irreverently call stammer bash, and really have not too much thought of the things that went with stammering, or the problems of how the person felt who had the stammer and how it had affected his life. But as time went on, it seemed more important, almost more important, to attend to the fears associated with stammering.
I was afraid to meet other stammerers. I was sort of quite afraid of them, really. There is one chap at work who does have a stutter, and I have very little contact with him, so I don't deliberately avoid him, but so I had no real feelings to sort of go and speak to him and say, you know, can we help each other? I shied away from it. And
we start by having a look at what they're doing, seeing what they do by videotaping them, and then making them feel comfortable and getting them to be fluent and practicing that fluency in all sorts of various situations, and hopefully at the end of the course making them feel good about living.
My name is now I'm at this moment trying to use a technique called syllabic speech, where you emphasize each syllable, and so I'm because the course has been intensive, it means that I have been able to practice it every day from 10 o'clock till 6 o'clock, and that is particularly helpful.
What else, boys? Tell him his liabilities. I don't have the strong dogmatic methods. I feel that each person who comes has to progress at the rate he feels is comfortable, and that's not to say that I don't prod and push sometimes if I feel they need gingering up, as you might say. No, I don't look for that. I look for a long-term, more stable alleviation of the problem. No, that's very naughty, because it gives people the impression that you're bored, and the last thing you want to give people the impression of is boredom, because particularly in a group like this, it's very off-putting. I've certainly had people over the years that haven't got control over their stammer, but they're happier. I'm all for the happy fluent speaker, but if this can't be achieved, let's pump for the happiness first.
Talking about holidays, I just had a friend come back from Australia. He tells me that one of the first things he did when he got to Sydney Airport was stuff a boomerang down his trousers.
Malcolm Stewart has a chronic stammer, but like many stammerers, he can become temporarily fluent by acting or putting on an accent.
Is that a boomerang in your trousers, or are you extremely pleased to see me? Yes, I can get the Australian accent off to a T, can't I? I always became terribly embarrassed.
My father was Irish, and he had a beautiful Northern Ireland accent. And I find that if I put that on now, if I ever want to make a telephone call and it's really important and there's nobody else around, and I put my father's beautiful drawl on, I am fine.
Like now, I can start speaking in a fairly reasonable South African accent, and I'll be okay for quite a long time, you know. I think so.
Now, how long could you carry that on for?
Oh, I suppose possibly half an hour to an hour, and I'd be quite all right talking like this.
You just feel that when you put on a different type of speech, like whether it be prolonged speech or any other, as if it's not you. And then that's quite hard, because sometimes it's even better to stammer than to be somebody else, even though you actually hate stammering.
Tell me, Suddy, why have you got a condom on your head? So you can become a masked robber and go into a bank and rob enough money to pay your poll tax. And what's that? And no one will ever you'll never recognise him like this, will you? No.
There was a very popular notion several years ago, particularly in the United States, as a result of some suggestion that parents, through their labeling stuttering, caused it to become a problem. That is, that parents observing normal disfluencies would say, gee, that child is beginning to stutter, and that label itself would then cause the child to become concerned, and then stuttering would result. Subsequent knowledge, subsequent data, research over the last 40, 50 years simply doesn't support that thesis. Actually, the research over the last 20, 30 years indicates that parents are, by and large, a major plus in assisting children in developing fluencies, in developing fluent speech. That is, that they're doing far many more right things than wrong things in helping children become fluent.
All the research suggests that it is a genetic problem, because always this is found that there usually is someone else somewhere in the family that has a stammer.